So now we're going to see if there are any things to add or revise on the agenda. Basically, we're going to hear from any of y'all who have work group or committee updates, flagging, any key things that are coming up, any resources that you need, any support that you need from us, to whether it's getting the word out for an event that you've got coming up or helping to put together a program. We are the outward facing expression of WILPF. So we are what people see that WILPF is. So that's coming up. And then Dee and Rita will lead off a discussion, maybe even a brainstorm about the panels or plenary for the upcoming Congress, making sure it's connected both to the issue committee and the themes. That's the majority of our conversation tonight. And then announcements, and then we're done. We could theoretically be done in less than an hour. That would be a miracle. All right, then. So let's start with committee or work group updates. You might not have one. You might have one. Raise your hand or let me know if there's something you want to share, and we'll go on. Joan Goddard.
Hi. I recently saw an email from Mary Beth, and I copied it and so on. There were 3 things on it, and I don't know whether you saw it. It was very recent.
Yes, it was saying she was going to miss today, and here are the things that she would share.
Yeah.
You want to share those?
Let's see. I guess there were some people who did not get this. So I could just mention what they were.
That would be great. Go ahead.
Okay. The One WILPF call on October 12th will feature Shoshone tribal leader Ian Zaparte, Beyond Oppenheimer and Indigenous Genocide on Nuclear Lands. And so watch for the e-alert on that. Also, there was an e-alert about the campaign through September to press for additional releases of the special drawing rights, SDRs. Thank heavens she spelled it out, because I keep struggling to figure out what that is. Anyway, to add debt-laden former colonies. And number 3 is the payment's been made for membership in American Peace Studies Association, and she hopes that Shilpa will be on this call maybe a little later and report on how we can all take advantage of the membership to post upcoming events and actions to share with those other folks. And number 4, the last thing, she suggested to Nancy, the Congress program chair, to invite Chris Jones to speak. And there's more about that, which I guess I could mention when we get to the Congress.
Okay, thank you, Joan. I remember meeting Ian Zavarte, the person who's going to be speaking at the One WILPF, or I think that's what the note said. He does have a very compelling story and documentation of how the US government totally screwed people and left very polluted uranium, plutonium, or whatever there that to this day is causing problems. He made a presentation to the Black Liberation Caucus, and he was a member for a while, but he did not continue attending, and I don't think he ever paid his dues. He wants some people to back him to sue the government or whatever, and I'm not belittling what he has to say. It's a righteous, totally real deal, but there's some lack of consistency or something there.
But there is stuff happening about that in Congress.
Good. That's very good. Excellent. Cheryl.
Yes, thank you. So the Disarm continues to be concerned with getting the war in Ukraine to finish through diplomacy. And you've all been sent through branches and Disarm, and I put it here in the website, in the chat. So we are starting on the 30th of September, a week, actually 8 days of global action to bring the war in Ukraine to an end. There are many actions happening around the country. And in particular, on the 3rd of October, there is a meeting that's going to happen in DC, but it's going to be live streamed. So you can listen to Cornel West speak about why we need to bring this war to an end and how he thinks we can do it. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's running for a presidential ticket on for the Green Party. Okay, it's just to do with the peace in Ukraine. I put that in the chat. I'm going to put another one which tells you all the different cities in the US that are having actions, and there's probably one near you. So I really want WILPF to get out. In particular, I'm arranging one here. Have arranged one here in downtown San Francisco. So Barbara Nielsen, I see you there. Please look at your email that I sent you a few hours ago. We're going to be standing outside BlackRock Investment Company, who are one of the ones we don't like more than most. It has $1 trillion that is invested for other people, and a lot of them are in the weapons organizations. So it's helping people to destroy Ukraine, and now they've got some kind of contract with the Ukrainian government to help them rebuild when the war is over, right? It's a lot of destroyed buildings. You've seen the photographs. So somebody has to work on rebuilding Ukraine, and so damn it, BlackRock's going to help with that too. So they help to destroy it, and then they help to rebuild it, and in that they make a lot of profits. Yeah, make money both ends. So anyway, please, we have to, we have to bring our attention of our Congress people and the public to the fact that sending more weapons to Ukraine is not helping. It's just getting more people killed. That most wars end with negotiation and compromise. And so let's not fight for another 5 years before we get there. Let's just start the damn diplomatic stuff now. And so please, look at, I'm going to send these into the thing. So if you're in a branch, check with your liaison why you didn't see my email of some time ago. It is disarmament is WILPF's major core reason for being, and so here we have a war that we need to get finished. Amen. And so please help us with that. Thank you.
Thank you. That's important. I'll see you tomorrow on the Peace in Ukraine call. Lenny.
Yeah, hi. So the Cuba and the Bolivarian Alliance Committee, together with the U.S. Women in Cuba Collaboration, had a very intense 3-day, with tags on both ends, retreat over this past weekend, and I'll be glad to tell you more about it when I've had some sleep. But what I just want to do right now is announce a webinar that will take place on Sunday, October 1st. And this webinar is being produced by the Lesbian and Allies Project of the U.S. Women in Cuba Collaboration. And I'm getting to talk on it for 4.5 minutes because I'm, by way of being a Cuban Families Code micro expert. In any case, this is the film Mariposas en el Andamio, which was made in '93, and it's an interesting film, and we'll talk about how we'll talk about the process of change, how Cuba went from being a traditional homophobic macho society to being the world leader in human rights, including LGBTQ plus rights and women's rights. So I've posted in the chat, and again, it is the first. It's at noon if you're on Pacific time, and all the time conversions. And there's a tiny URL, sign up to register, and it's going to be pretty interesting. Don't worry, you only get me for 4.5 minutes, 5 at the outside. All the rest will be good.
It does sound like it'll be
good too if you're interested in the Cuban Families Code and Cuban LGBTQ history, actually. Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent, very interesting. Anyone else from a work group or committee that has an update to share? Yes, Tura.
I did send my report earlier, and I think I may have missed the emails of a couple people, such as Barbara Nielsen and maybe Rita. So
Yeah.
if you did not receive it earlier when George gave us the agenda, then put your email in the chat, and I'd like to help streamline the meeting by sending you my report in writing.
I will
I just
resend
sent it.
your email with the recording and the chat. So it'll be one of the follow-up documents that people get. Rita, did you want to give us an update on DPAL?
You caught me as I've been into a Snickers bar.
Great
It's not a
timing.
big one, it's a little one. Only cost 13 pesos. But that was
Nice.
my treat for today.
Okay.
I almost stuck on my teeth.
All
Is
right.
it 8
Well,
to 1?
we can give you some seconds.
Okay.
I can share with folks that the No to NATO work group hasn't met for a minute, but I imagine it will meet in October or November. And our major piece of work is getting people out to July next year in DC to just throw down and show out, because NATO 75th anniversary, they'll be acting like, they're all that. And we have to make sure they know that they have to go away and, shut up and sit down, as it were. There is a meeting on the 30th, which I guess is Saturday, same day as our board meeting, of people, an international meeting around planning for that. That's at 1:00 where I am in the eastern part of the world, but it's all over. It's a global meeting. If you're interested in attending that meeting, there's a registration. Hey, Nancy, do you know about the meeting I'm describing? Can you put the registration link in the chat? Maybe. Otherwise, I'll add it to what goes out. Are you talking and muted, Nancy?
I've got that on my bookmark. I can also find it.
Well,
You
why
can-
don't you do that, Cheryl? Because it's the beginning of the planning discussions, and I did put in the chat that already there's plans. There are plans for a walk across the country beginning in Santa Monica, California. So walking across the country, making all sorts of connections, speakings, having media, etc., along the way, of course. There are also plans for various actions and activities. I do know that July 7 is there's the plan to have a big march and rally in Lafayette Park, which is in front of the White House. And the anniversary of NATO is the 9th to the 11th. So these events will be before then and attract attention and build up popular education and mobilization against NATO before NATO does whatever they do for their 75th anniversary. And there will be other kinds of events planned before and after the NATO anniversary. So we can expect that maybe our members and branches will also plan local events or events at our capitals of the states. So it's an opportunity to really mobilize, educate and mobilize. Thank you.
And there's a US-Canada working group that Nancy and I have been active in, and they want to do a number of webinars or film showings to just get people educated and psyched to go to DC, because we have to really work on it to get a huge amount of people there. So Rita, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Go ahead.
I hope it was delicious.
Yes, it was, because I don't get to treat myself often. So it was a little treat. But what I was going to say was that we're still working, locking things in for the DPAL webinar in October. So we're still, we have a lot of focus on that right now. And we've got the flyer out. The only thing that didn't include on this flyer was the donation link, which we have. There's one for WILPF in general, but not specifically for that committee. So that will probably go on the next follow-up flyer. It looks pretty good too. And of course, we were working on the other committee um, on the flyer for next year's Congress. And but I was kind of curious, maybe I read it wrong. Just upfront, being upfront with everybody, I do. I was diagnosed December 2021 with the adult version, I guess, of ADHD. So sometimes I don't get things real quick. That's why I do a lot of listening before I talk. And I often have to ask questions for clarification. But if my understanding that we supposed to report on um, the putting those two issues together of domestic violence in relation to water and access to water and things of that nature, or did I totally misread that?
I just wanted you to share whatever DPAL wanted us to know about.
Oh, okay.
So you
Okay.
feel like you got to do that?
Yes.
Cool. Excellent.
Unless Dee has some else she wants to add.
Well, y'all are going to be up again soon to help us think through plenaries
Okay.
and panel discussions.
Okay.
So
Right. I actually would like to add a little to what Rita said. We are planning, we have the date for October 21st, 3 p.m. for a webinar. It's some things are up in the air. We've had kind of we had applied for a mini grant for assistance with it, and there were a lot of delays with getting a response. And once we got the response, we were basically told that they were going to vet our speakers and also what we did and didn't need for the webinar. So right now, the outcome of the webinar is kind of hanging in the balance because there's we're not necessarily 100% on board with that direction. And so how the outcome will depend on essentially what they're willing to do versus our communication with our guests. So either way it goes, it'll be a great webinar because we have put a lot of energy and effort and research into it. And the speakers, that are slated at present are very good speakers. And
is there any way we can help? Anything we can do?
maybe once the recording is over, I do have a question for people who've been.
You can pause it so it's not
established.
recording. I can
Yeah.
pause. Let me pause.
Yeah. To
Yeah.
You're on mute, Nancy.
Why don't you and Rita go ahead? That's very fine. And I'll fill in if I am inspired to do so.
Okay, so we're
Yeah.
all, Nancy is the chair of the Congress Programming Committee. Rita and I are also members of the participating members of the Congress Programming Committee. We just actually came from a Congress Program Committee meeting. So there were some discussions. Eileen is also a member. There were some discussions regarding what this Congress is actually going to look like, I guess. Some new information which was kind of sprung on us during the last meeting. And so the composition of our panels and what that will look like may be directly affected by some new proposals that have come around the bend.
Around the bend is the accurate description.
So aside from that, I don't have very much prepared. I did receive that agenda that you put forth, George, and went right when you put it out, but we were in a meeting. I didn't have time to review it until the program committee meeting ended.
No worries. But what advice or recommendations or concerns do you have to share with us as issue committees other than tying our issue committee with the theme? If someone can answer that, Nancy
Rita,
or Dee.
Rita, do you have something you'd like to add to that?
Can you rephrase that? Because I don't understand it, what you just said. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So as the folks who are doing the planning
Mhm.
and as the committee chairs or work group or subcommittee chairs that are working on issues, what would you like us to know as we are thinking about our panel discussions or speakers or workshops or anything? What recommendations do you have? What, you know, what concerns maybe? Anything you'd like us to know as we're trying to start planning this stuff ourselves?
Right.
This is in relation to what, the Congress coming up next year on water, or are we talking
Yes,
about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Congress
Okay.
next July or June or whenever it is.
Yeah, that's where my confusion originally came in, because I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if you were saying how DPAL.
No, I wasn't asking DPAL. DPAL was cool, and I think we
Okay.
covered DPAL. I was
Okay.
asking our committee folks, you know, Disarm and MEPJAC and Cuba Bolivarian and Earth Democracy. As you're planning, what advice might come from Nancy or Dee? And Nancy's been shaking her head, so I believe she's got an idea or two.
Why don't we go with Nancy? Because I'm still a
Okay.
little confused. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay. Well, what I think is important for this program committee discussion is that the theme is water on the front lines of peace. And so we would like the issue committees in the next few weeks, by mid-October, to discuss together, I mean, your issue committee, to discuss how you would like to participate in this Congress on that theme in regard to the subject matter that you work on for your issue committee. So, for example, last night I was speaking with the Disarm committee, and Cheryl said, well, in Disarm, of course, we would find that a lot of the topics we could speak about would be about the crisis of water in situations of conflict and war. Well, I'll let Cheryl speak for herself, but she commented that was sort of a negative, an aspect of the impact of conflict and war on water resources availability, water available for women, water available for growing food and food security, et cetera. We can even link water, of course, to climate. Water is not often connected with the discussions now on fossil fuels and climate, for example. So I can imagine that the issue committees represented here and others who aren't could discuss and find topics that they think could be worked into the Congress theme, which is water on the front lines of peace. Dee, I don't know if you have that document in front of you that we finished up at the end of our meeting.
Yes, I was just about to ask if I could screen share to help.
Yes, if you could screen
inform
share that.
everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. So whenever you get a chance to enable that, George, I can show you a framework that will help everyone kind of with the planning. Thank you. I don't know if I can share yet. Yes, I can. Okay. And Tina Shelton on our committee came up with a wonderful idea that we would break it down into the 3 topics. Water, an entire focus on water and everything to do with water, like the privatization of water and commodification and, water protectors and different themes as you see here. On the front lines would be the frontline actors, people who are actually doing good work to do with the quality of water and protesting. There's a number of different organizations that their entire focus will be on water. And we're still working on this. As you can see, it's a work in progress. And for peace, So if on your committee, you want to speak about how water is impacted by war, for instance, it might go somewhere under this category of the piece. So that's all. I just wanted to share the screen. This is where we are. And we have a few other notes, but just please remember the 3 topics: water, or the people on the front lines, or bees.
And Dee, do you happen to have the chart with the working groups there?
Yes. Let me pause. Let me stop sharing. I can pull that up.
So we have created working groups to join together on topics. This will come up shortly. Dee, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Someone's gonna share their screen.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think Dee's going to share.
I use Libra. I don't use Word, so it's a little bit slower. It's a free word
All right,
processor.
I'm just kind of lost,
Ah,
but I'm okay.
we got you. All right, let me go back to Zoom here, and then I can share.
So I might just add, if the issue committees have recommendations that they include with topics of speakers, that would be helpful. And we're drawing up a parallel list of people who could speak on the topic and on the topics. So here's our working groups at the moment. Indigenous members in Minnesota that we would like to reach out to. That's various groups, tribal groups, what they're working on, what they would be interested in presenting on. This, of course, water privatization, bottled water, war over water working group. So that's fairly self-explanatory. Rights of nature, the rights of nature case against a corporation that wanted to privatize wild rice, etc. So we're just beginning now to flesh this all out. We'd really welcome your contributions, your suggestions on speakers and topics. We'll
And
answer.
Eileen said that she would be reaching out to work with Disarm, I believe, on the War Over Water working group.
Yeah. Yes, you did. So
Supreme Court case we found out about today from some of the Minnesota members on wild rice, like she mentioned. They wanted to basically patent it. So we're going to be following that as well. But rights of nature is a broad category. So if anyone wants to work with any of the groups that or has suggestions, we will definitely welcome them via email. Please send it to Nancy or to myself.
Thank you so much, Nancy and Dee.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So we've got questions, Cheryl, and then Lenny. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Yes, well, I anticipating this issue of water being a theme, although I didn't know it was going to be on the front lines of peace. I've started some months ago collecting information in a little packet here about, unfortunately, a lot of conflict is over access to water. It's a resource, and as you probably all know, that's often the source of wars and civil wars and bigger wars. So that's an unfortunate aspect, that came to my mind. But I also have found that it's a SDG number 6, right? So the SDGs that we're all supposed to be trying to reach, the UN. I'm just trying to remember what SDG stands for. There's 30 of them.
Sustainable Development Goals.
Goals, thank you. Sustainable Development Goals. One of them is allied with water availability, and there's a name of it. So
water and sanitation.
Water and sanitation. So I think as WILPF is accredited to the United Nations, we have consultative standing with them, that we should, somewhere in the Congress acknowledge that there is this SDG number 6,
Yeah.
and you can go look it up yourselves, and that, we should be helping getting towards that, the goals of that particular SDG. And so then I also found, for example, there's an organization called the American Water Resources Association, and who is, their goal, the mission is to work towards solving water resources challenges in collaborative, multidisciplinary way that brings together stakeholders from public and private sectors. So there's a lot of organizations out there, worried about water. And so I see a lot of possibilities for this Congress. And now I really appreciate now you've divided this thing into 3: water, on the front line, and peace. And so I will be thinking about how to do that. Eileen is in charge of the disarm efforts towards providing, content to the and possibly a panel, or at least, brochures, whatever. So I know, having been to one of these congresses, there's a variety of ways that committees can have input and provide workshops and content for the Congress. So we are onto it. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Carol.
thank you.
And thanks for keeping that around 3 minutes. Lenny and then Rita.
Yeah, I just had 2 questions. One is, when do you want proposals by? And the second question, because before I work on a proposal, I want to make sure it falls within somewhere within something you'd be willing to consider. As soon as I hear the words water on the front line, I am thinking of water as an international boundary. Would you be at all interested in exploring that concept? Because the boundary between the US and Mexico is very, somebody's making signs with their hand.
Committee.
Yes,
Perfect.
I think that would be very important. In fact, if you read just this last issue of Peace and Freedom, Nick Buxton had an article in about boundaries. And so I think it's a very important topic.
Okay, so
And-
when do you want to buy? And who do
Well,
they go to?
It would go to me and Dee, and I think something like October 15 perhaps is a good date.
That's less than a month, though.
Cuba, yes.
October 15th is less than a month.
I
We've been kind of
understand.
pressured to get a program out by the end of October. And
Okay.
it's likely going to go to mid-November, but
How about an outline by the middle of October? Like the
Yeah,
key things?
I think an outline would be good. I think we'll have a tentative agenda, a tentative program. I mean, it won't be absolutely finalized, but I think we'd really like to include what issue committees suggest, and have participation. The question is, it might not be that an issue committee would have a whole panel, but might have, a speaker or 2. We would put people together, we put topics together. I also want to caution, when you read about these organizations that are looking at the issue of water provision, be very careful when you read their websites or their literature that they're not actually groups that are really looking to privatize
Yep.
water.
Tell
So
us.
we have a working group on public and private water, and that's really a very important topic. And the problem is that the big, huge multinational water companies, of which there are very few, of course, want to get all the funding they can to help privatize the provision of SDG 6, which is water and sanitation. And
Yep.
with privatization come a whole realm of problems. So just be careful when you look at these websites that you're perusing, that you kind of look beneath the rhetoric and the way they're trying to sell what they do.
Okay, thank you. Rita.
Yes, I hope I'm not bringing this up too late, but I was thinking in terms of, especially in regards to water being something that's going to be, wars are going to be fought over in the future, because it's going to be harder to get, overpriced and everything, thanks to it being now commodified by
Right,
Wall Street.
right.
So there was a documentary that I saw 2 years back. I don't know how old the documentary is. I can look it up, but it was called Blue Gold,
Yeah,
and, and it talked about that very thing
right.
and addresses that very thing. And I was wondering if we could do like some sort of viewing party on one of those nights, and it
Mhm.
could be something that maybe I'm not very technical, but we could, zoom in on it or something, and people can watch it at their leisure.
Mhm.
But it would be a real eye opener, and it has a lot of information in that documentary. That's the one that opened up my eyes. So
That would be Maud Barlow speaking in that documentary. And we can certainly also invite her if we,
oh, that would be great.
yeah.
That
So,
would be great.
yeah,
Now
thank
the
you for
other,
bringing that up.
oh, you're welcome. And then I had a question, if something could be added on the working group dealing with privatization. Um, and it probably will be included, but I just want to be sure that it got added in there to deal with the fact that it is commodified now. The CEO of Nestle at that time had said that water was not a right; it was a privilege, of course, that you have to pay for. Um, I'd like to see that kind of addressed in that particular committee that I believe I'm on there too,
Yeah,
but that working group, if it could be added into the language there, to the verbiage.
yeah, certainly. Yeah,
All right.
good.
Make sure you
Something-
remember it, Rita. Bring it up
Yeah,
next time y'all are meeting.
right.
Yeah,
All right, so
yeah.
we've got 7 minutes left, and I want to. I had a couple of questions, and I think I've gotten an answer to it. What you need by October 15th is an outline. This is the topic. Here's briefly what it is. Here's the speaker or the proposed speaker.
Yeah,
And we're not necessarily thinking about workshops or plenaries. We're thinking about panel discussions and speakers. Yes, at this point.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So that'll help me think about what I want to do. And last thing before I turn to announcements, y'all may have announcements. I will try to take less than 2 minutes, but I want you to think about the board, the WILF board. We have work to do as a board. We as the programs and all of our committees, as I said earlier, we are the external expression of the work. We get the work done of WILF. So think about the board and think about people you know who can run for office. We need some good candidates for office. We need a brilliant, details-oriented, quick-minded woman to run for secretary. We need someone to run for the at-large seat that Miss Joan Goddard is filling in now. We need membership development person. And I think development itself, the development like money development person. I think that's all of them. There may be one, there's 6 or 7 possible seats. So if you know somebody, you think they'd be good, send me an email, give me their name and phone number. I will reach out to them and pray, ask, conjure, beg, cajole them to nominate themselves. Nominations end in early November, and we want a great board. I want some great sister board members, and I want to have fun. And I think we can get the work done and have fun, dang it. Because we deserve you need to conjure some good energy to stay in this, to bring joy and hope and love to the work. Otherwise, it sucks. Okay. So, does anybody have announcements? Well, then we're done at 9:26.
yoo-hoo, yoo-hoo.
All right. We'll see you next month. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Many, many
Well,
blessings.
George, what would the date be next
night.
month?
It's October 2nd.
October 2nd. Okay,
I'm
great.
pretty sure. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Groovy.